So when I was 9 years old, I was invited to church. My parents were not believers, but they let my brother and I go to church. And I vividly remember hearing the good news of the gospel of Jesus for the very first time. And for me, I had struggled a lot with shame. And so hearing that God loved me, that God had a plan for my life, that Jesus had died on the cross for me, that was incredibly good news. And I remember being so excited to go home and tell my parents about my newfound faith. But they were not interested whatsoever of hearing about that. So I began to realize that I was kind of alone when it came to my faith. But Jesus was very real to me. It was so personal. He loved me and I loved him. And so I would just sit in my room and I would read my little Bible that my aunt had given me. I would sing songs to him. I would pray, and I would feel his presence so tangibly in those early years. Yeah, so shortly after I had given my life to Christ, that was kind of the first time I experienced God not making sense. And that was when my baby brother, Kevin, died shortly after being born. He lived for about 2 months. When that happened, wow, a dark cloud just descended upon our family. The hardest part about that was we didn't talk about it. We really never had a funeral. We didn't really have the opportunity to mourn. I was 9, my brother was 6, and we were pretty much just left on our own to deal with that, which I guess the way we dealt with it was not dealing with it. Really, sadness or mourning or crying were not allowed in our family. The only kind of appropriate emotion, if you will, that was allowed was anger. And there's plenty of that to go around. There just wasn't a lot of love that was shared. There wasn't a lot of kindness that was shared. And that really all came to a head as I entered into my high school years. And my parents, their relationship just probably never really recovered after Kevin's death. They argued and fought, and eventually, when I was a senior in high school, they got a divorce. There was a lot of verbal abuse in our family. Occasionally, it would escalate to physical abuse. It really did challenge what I was learning about God, because doing my utmost to follow him, to be sort of that good girl, to be loving and kind and patient. Those were not things that were necessarily demonstrated in my household. And so I was having to learn a different way of being. But there was a lot of pain that went unresolved. And so church and my relationship with Jesus and all of that provided sort of an outlet, a remedy to that, where I could experience something more positive, that maybe, or some more nurturing that wasn't necessarily always happening at home. I know those years for me really strengthened my faith, particularly because I felt sort of alone in it. And it would be a strengthening that I would need as I came to even greater challenges of faith, challenges where God really did not make sense as I came into my 20s and 30s.